Let's do another example. A titanium cube contains 2.86 times 10 to the 23rd atoms. What is the edge length of the cube? The density of titanium is 4.50 grams per cubic centimeter. This is one of those word problems that you have to think about. It's not going to just hit you in the face, oh, I need to convert grams to moles or something. We have to think about this. So let's take our numbers and write them down. So I've got 2.86 times 10 to the 23 atoms. What element is this? Titanium. So this is Ti. And then it gives me a density, 4.50 grams per cubic centimeter. And we're talking about a cube. I'm going to draw a picture. Even if you don't draw very well, sometimes drawing pictures just can help you figure out what these words are meaning. So we want to know what L is, the length of the cube. That's all the information they gave us. So we have to start putting things together, pulling in things we know, and we might have to go looking for information somewhere. What do we know about the volume of a cube in relationship to the length of one side? The volume equals the length cubed. So if we found the volume, we could find out what L is, right? Here we have the density. So if we knew the mass, we could find the volume. Yeah, density is mass over volume. How can we find out the mass? Periodic table, molar mass of titanium. Where'd you go? 47.867. So from the periodic table, 47.867 grams of titanium is equal to 1 mole of titanium. They gave me two numbers in the problem. This one has a single unit, this one has compound units, grams per cubic centimeter. Generally, the number to start with is the one that just has a single unit. I'm going to write the path way at the top because this is taking up a lot of space. So I'm starting with atoms, and I want to get to the length of one side of this cube. If I have the volume of the cube, I could get to the length. That's what we talked about. If I had the mass in grams, I could get to the volume because I have the density. I need to get from atoms to mass. What's the stepping stone in between? Moles. So I'm going to go atoms to moles, to grams, to volume, cubic centimeters, and then I can use the equation for volume and solve that. So 2.86 times 10 to the 22 atoms of titanium. 23, thank you. So that's atoms. I want to go to moles. We have atoms down here, so they cancel out. And then I'm going to go to grams. And moles down there, so they cancel out. And then from grams, I want to go to volume. And looking at this density, this is grams per cubic centimeter, so I could get to cubic centimeters from grams. At that point, I need to use an equation. So I have to stop, take that value, and deal with the equation. Well, here's the density, 4.50 grams per cubic centimeter. So that's 1 cubic centimeter is 4.50 grams. Grams per mole, we get that from the periodic table. 47.867 grams is 1 mole for titanium. And then moles to atoms is Avogadro's number, 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd. 2.86 EE23 divided by 6.022 EE23 times 47.867 divided by 4.5. I'm going to think ahead here a little bit and ask myself, how many significant figures if I was rounding off here? 3. This one has 3, there's 4, there's 5, and there's 3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write down 3 significant figures and then 2 extras to avoid rounding errors. So I'm going to get 5.05, there's my significant figures, and I'm going to keep this 1/8 so I don't get rounding problems. That's the volume of the cube. Any questions about how we got there? Is that a reasonable volume? Yeah, 5 cubic centimeters. It's like, smallish, but visible. It's not larger than the building. It's a good sign. Yeah, now we have to use this. This is the volume. The volume is equal to the length cubed. So I'm going to take the cube root of both sides, and the length is going to equal the cube root of the volume. So that's the cube root of 5.0518. So my calculator has a button for that. If your calculator doesn't, then you're going to have to use somebody else's. 1.71? What am I doing here? I haven't used that button on my calculator, so it took me a minute to remember. So 1.71586 is going to have 3 significant figures. And so I'm going to round that to 1.72. And what's the unit? Centimeters. Because you take the cube root of centimeters cubed and you get centimeters. And, wonderful of wonderfuls, centimeter is an appropriate unit for the length of the side. Yes?
What button do you think you're using for the...
Well, on my calculator, it looks like this. Some calculators actually have a cube root button. If your calculator doesn't have a cube root button, that's not a death blow. It's not the end of the world. We're not going to do cube roots very often, but we will occasionally. It probably won't happen on a test. Any questions? There we go. We finished the chapter.